You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Sunday, November 9th. We just finished witnessing the 49ers losing, not very good fashion. I mean, it's never good fashion when your team loses, but it was a big loss for the 49ers, 42-26 to the Rams. And again, this being a divisional game, three teams pretty much neck and neck for that top spot in the NFC. 49ers still held, the leverage there, given that they, before this game, were undefeated in the NFC West, but, they lose to the Rams. And so this will change the picture for the standings in that division quite a bit. I would imagine Seattle also handed it to the Cardinals as well. So, this was a forgettable game. But there were moments in which, we kind of did feel like the 49ers would maybe be able to come back and make something happen. And then ultimately they just weren't able to get it done. Things fell apart and unraveled again. So let's just recap what happened. So as you guys know, Thursday, Alfred Collins showed up on the injury report with a hip injury. So he ended up being inactive for this game. He had been starting at defensive tackle for the 49ers. So, you could think of that as a significant loss for the 49ers among others that they've had on the defensive side of the ball. CJ West was active, Brock Purdy inactive again. So Mac Jones was able to get his 8th start. Ben Bartch was back, but Spencer Burford did start at left guard, I believe, but I think Ben Bartch ended up finishing the game, and Jake Brendel did return and take his spot. His usual spot at center. But let's talk about how this game started out. I mean, the Rams get the ball first, and they just move the ball with ease. With ease. Like, Stafford is just doing whatever he wanted. And that was kind of like just a microcosm of what ended up happening in the entirety of this game. I mean, Stafford was just comfortable. He was dealing, he was cooking all afternoon long. And the 49ers on the other side started this game off horrendously offensively. And that, to me, is the biggest issue in this game. And you can look at it and say, the defense played horribly. I agree. I would most definitely agree with that. But we also know what the defense was going up against. I don't think any of us really expected the defense to have an easy time against this Rams team, especially with how depleted this defense is at the moment. I look back at that week 5 game, and the 49ers were dealing with a lot of injuries then, mostly to the offensive side of the ball. But even still, I looked at that game and I didn't think they were going to win the week 5 game. So I had a similar thought in this one. I had an open mind that maybe this team could surprise me again. But the 49ers have more injuries on the defensive side now than they did then. So I think it's too much to ask for from your defense. And one thing we've been saying over and over again, which I feel like, now that you have even more injuries on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like it's on the offense to carry this defense. It's been the case for much of the season, but now I feel like they're better positioned to be able to do that, while the defense is less positioned to be able to, hold their opponents, especially when you're talking about this Rams offense, right? So, I kind of feel like this game, in my opinion, kind of falls on the offense only because my expectations for the defense was already low for this game. I wasn't expecting them to do much to stop Stafford. Would have liked to see a better effort in many moments in this game. Don't get me wrong. There were times where there were missed tackles early in the game. I mean, receivers were wide open for Stafford to throw to. I mean, you hate to see that. And I'm not excusing that one bit, but I feel like the offense early in this game had opportunities to tit for tat and, even things up. Like the 49ers went 3-and-out on their first offensive drive. There was the after that, the Rams scored again, so you're down 14-0 or 0-14. And then on the 49ers second offensive drive, you get Juwan Jennings getting called for a false start. Okay, drive continues. Few plays later, Juwan Jennings then, fumbles after the 49ers were having some success moving the football. Could you imagine what, getting 7 on that drive could have done for just like, not just the momentum, but how close this game would have felt at that point. 4-7. I mean, yeah, you feel like you could live with that. You feel like you could claw your way back from that a little bit better. But instead, you give the Rams the ball back in relatively favorable position. And of course, the Rams being able to move the ball as well as they had, to that point, they score again. So that then they go up 21-0. I mean, yeah, both sides of the ball started this game horrendously. I like the first quarter and much of the second quarter. Like I was looking at this game like it was really testing my. It was really testing me as a content creator, because as a fan, you can, if you don't like what you're seeing on a game, you can just turn it off and walk away. As a content creator, me having to do these like post games, I don't have that luxury. And I know a lot of, fans very loyal and will watch, even the end of the worst games, but you don't feel like you have to. I was like watching this game at the beginning and I was like, not only do I have to watch this game, I have to talk about it afterwards. But I mean, thankfully, it didn't end up being as bad as it felt in the beginning, but ultimately it's still bad. 42-26, and that's with the 49ers getting a pretty late score. It, like I said, it's kind of avalanched at the end to make matters worse, because there were points in which the 49ers did put together some good drives. And I didn't mention this one. So the 49ers first 3 offensive drives: punt on a 3-and-out, fumble, and then a turnover on downs. So yeah, you can't start on offense like that when your defense desperately needs you to get something going, because they can't hold Stafford and this offense at all. Like I just feel like the 49ers offense woke up a little too late in this game. And yeah, it was too much to come back from at that point. I mean, I think there were 2 punts maybe from, 2 total punts from the Rams, and that happened in the first half. And then the 49ers, trying to slowly get back into it. They make it 21-7. Mac Jones at that point, was playing pretty well, I would say. And there were moments where Christian McCaffrey, was doing a lot. The possession before halftime kind of bothers me in hindsight. If the 49ers miraculously made it back into this game, I maybe I wouldn't have given this a second thought. But I do remember before halftime, and the 49ers are in Rams territory. They're not very far into Rams territory. I believe there was a 3rd and 15. And then Mac Jones threw short of the sticks to George Kittle. And, you expect the 49ers are going to go for it on 4th down. Well, Shanahan actually elected to punt on 4th down. It was a 4th and long. It was 4th and 7. But they were at the Rams 47. Now, I want to say, let me look at how much time was on the clock, because I think that would be the only concern, right? Like just how much time is left. There was, when the Rams got the ball back, there was like 20 seconds left when 49ers punted back to the Rams. 19 seconds. So they got the ball with 11 seconds left, and the Rams ended up kneeling. But I feel like if you're down 21-7, and you have the ball coming out of the half. Why not just like go for it and see what happens? Like I would have, if I were Kyle Shanahan, and obviously I'm not, but I feel like I would have been aggressive there and I would have just gone for it, because you had the opportunity to then make it a 21-14 game, and then you could get the ball after the half and double dip. I mean, that was my thought. But yeah, the 49ers ultimately elected to not do that. They punted. So they were happy to go into halftime, 21-7. In the third quarter, the 49ers start off hot, coming off of the halftime break. That was probably my favorite drive of the entire game from the 49ers. It was run heavy. They were just gaining chunk yardage with both McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, kind of bullied his way in for the score, forced a missed tackle. As we've seen before from Brian Robinson in the red zone, he's not a quitter. I liked that drive a lot. Like that felt like a statement drive. And then so the 49ers, it's 21-14. It feels like they have renewed hope, and we all had renewed hope watching this game. Like, okay, maybe we can actually get this going. But it just felt like every time the 49ers from that point on, like, had an answer, like anytime they scored a touchdown, the Rams would match it. So it was it was just not going to it just wasn't one of those days for the 49ers. And it felt that way pretty early in the game, because early in the game, I didn't see a lot of fight from this team, and I feel like that ultimately hurt them. By the end of it, I feel like we did see some fight, particularly from the offense, but ultimately I feel like the fight kicked in too late, and just not enough fight from the defense. And, granted, they're just simply not talented enough in most cases. On paper against the Rams, like, yeah, you would imagine that this would be the outcome. But yeah, I just feel like it was a little too late that they try to get things going. And credit to the Rams for taking advantage of everything the 49ers weren't doing right. I mean, the second half was basically the Rams doing everything they wanted on offense. That was the story of the second half. Stafford was moving the ball at will. And, I know Saleh tried different things on defense, and he tried to blitz. Stafford is one of the best, if not the best, quarterback against the blitz. In my previous show, I talked about that a lot. There were moments in which the 49ers brought a blitz, and it led to an incompletion, or it led to maybe a less aggressive throw from Stafford, and a throw short of the sticks or something like that, which, I feel like the 49ers were happy to take. But there were other moments in which, it ended up being a pretty successful play for the Rams. And it just seemed like Saleh was okay living with that, just taking that gamble, because you're just not getting any pressure at all with who you have. The 49ers had one sack in this game, but it was more so a coverage sack in that one. And Stafford ended the game 24 of 36, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, he was able to do whatever he wanted today. And he's been on a tear, honestly. And then the 49ers started making mistakes, like Mac Jones. He threw, was it 2 picks today? Yeah, 2. One pick, technically 2 if you count it on the 2-point conversion, but I guess they don't count those. So, 1 pick, technically. 33 of 39, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. I think, like, for the most part, Mac played well. I just think in the fourth quarter, playing from behind, there were some risks that he was taking that maybe in most cases, when the 49ers are in much favorable positions, he wouldn't take those risks. But he did take some where he was throwing into tight coverage. There were a couple of passes that could have been picked off for Mac, I think, in this game. And the one that did was, him just throwing into tight coverage. So, yeah, it was just not a good game for the 49ers, and that's unfortunate. What also pissed me off about the drive in which he threw the interception in the fourth quarter is that George Kittle was called for a legal shift on third down on the same play in which Cam Curl was also called for DPI. Except one of those calls was BS, and it was the illegal shift called on Kittle. That should have been a first down for the 49ers right there. That was an extremely questionable call on George Kittle, and it was one that ultimately put Mac Jones in a position to throw a pick because it was like a desperation play. Rams brought pressure. Yeah, just that was bad. That was really bad. I'm not saying it's an excuse. The 49ers were down 34-20 at that point. But yeah, that's tough. And then the closest that the game was 7 points, but then there was, the 49ers scored again, and Eddie Piñeiro's extra point gets blocked, so then it's 28-20. The 49ers were never that close again in this game. Like, that was the end of it. The Rams shut the door on that rather quickly. So yeah, it was a forgettable game from the 49ers. I understand that this is a very talented Rams team, especially on offense, and I don't know if every remaining game for the 49ers is going to look this way. I mean, I think we know this defense is going to struggle. I think that's why a lot of us were wanting the 49ers to make another trade to help this defense. I think there are going to be games where it's more competitive for the 49ers because, next week, for example, they're playing the Cardinals. Week after that, you got, the Panthers. Those two games are winnable from the defensive side of things, in offense. But, I think the defense will find themselves having an easier time defending both the Cardinals and the Panthers than they did this Rams offense today. I don't know how much solace that gives us. It doesn't necessarily mean the 49ers win those games, but yeah, I don't know. I think there are going to be some games where we see this defense struggle, and you're just going to have to live with it, right? And at the same time, when watching those games, and you can kind of tell pretty early in games when it's going to be one of those games for the defense, your offense has to put points up. Has to, without a doubt. Before I get to these comments here, because I see you guys commenting, I'll get to those. Kyle Shanahan is speaking with the media right now. He was asked on Brock Purdy possibly returning for week 11 next week against the Cardinals. Kyle Shanahan said, I do believe he's further along than he was in week 4, so hopefully he'll have a chance this week. Okay, it still doesn't sound super promising to me either. I don't know if it's just... I don't know what's going on with Purdy. I understand that the turf toe thing is something you want to be very careful with. I understand it's very finicky. But they also keep doing things, right? Throughout the week where it's oh, he's questionable for the game. He's doing better, so he's questionable. He might be able to play as a backup to Mac Jones. And then we all throw a stink about it because it's if he's healthy enough to play, why wouldn't he start? And then they ultimately decide to make him inactive. They've done this now 3 times. They did it in week 3, and they've done it the last 2 weeks. So I don't even know what to believe anymore. I'll believe Brock Purdy is ready when he's active. That's simply it. And I guess Kyle Shanahan did also say that Brock Purdy could have gone today as a backup, but Shanahan said he didn't want to put Purdy in that situation. Here, let me screen share this because this is a tweet from Nick Wagner, and he's like paraphrasing. So this isn't a direct quote from Kyle Shanahan, but the tweet reads, Brock Purdy, quote, could have gone today as backup, according to Kyle Shanahan, but Shanahan said he didn't want to put Purdy in that situation. Shanahan said he wants Purdy as close to 100% as possible before putting him back in. Adds Purdy could have a chance to go at Arizona. I think it. Oh, whoops! Sorry, I didn't put it. I think it's fair that they want to wait till he's 100%. I think they should too. You don't want a situation where he re-aggravates it. And if you have the luxury to get Purdy back to 100% because Mac Jones continues to, operate this offense well enough that you feel comfortable enough with him as the starting quarterback that you could wait for Purdy to get 100%, then, that's a good situation. But yeah, just like, how long is this going to go on? I guess we'll find out. We say for like the 6th week in a row. Okay, let me get to some of your guys' comments here. Yeah, we did sure get smoked like a turkey. Jason says putrid, disgusting, humiliating. Humiliating, yes, it could have, and that's the crazy thing. It could have been way worse. Like when the 49ers or when the Rams got off to a 21-0 start, I was like, God, are the 49ers even going to put any points up? Offense was fine for the most part. Defense was inept all day. This is true. I simply think the offense just woke up too late, because if there was any chance and like clearly the defense was going to just, let the Rams do whatever they wanted, like all game, then it would have just come down to it being a shootout, right? And whoever got the ball last, that would have been the winner, basically. I could have lived with a game like that, I feel like. But the offense waking up too late made that impossible. So, yeah, clearly a loss like this, a week after the 49ers don't make any trades at the deadline, is going to make people even more upset about that whole situation. And I think it's fair. I agree. Here's what I'll say. I don't think the 49ers were one player away from competing for anything. I understand they do have a chance to still slip into the playoffs at this point. But I think one player could have made enough of a difference to just improve this defense even slightly, right? And so you don't have that. I get the 49ers not wanting to give up too much for a player that they don't deem worthy of that, but I see both sides. But the 49ers are just going to have to accept what fans and the media or whoever is going to say about the 49ers getting boat raced, a week after not making any trades to help this defense out at all. They're just going to have to take it in the chin. Yeah, and again, maybe the 49ers they don't have dudes, they don't have guys who are like game changers on this defense right now. But I do think this defense is good enough with Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator to be competitive in most games. But it's not going to be in a game against the Rams in this offense. It's not going to be in a game against the Seahawks. My goodness, the Seahawks look really freaking good. And they made a trade for Shaheed at the deadline, which makes them even more dangerous than they already were. Their defense is humming as well. They've gotten better each and every week since the week 1 when the 49ers played them. So is the defense going to be in some games like this again? Yes. I don't think it's going to be every week where it looks this putrid, but I think we should expect that it's not always going to be easy for this defense. It hasn't been all season, really. Yeah, too many injured defensive leaders to overcome that Rams offense. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. SD9er says, unfortunately, this defense is trash, and I don't see it getting better with what we have. Too many injuries to overcome. The good news, if you want to find a silver lining, I'm all for silver linings. 49ers didn't have any new injuries today, unless like knowing the 49ers, there's probably going to be one tomorrow that like Kyle didn't know about today. Like someone's going to be like sore from something, and then they're going to be out for like the next game. But as far as we know today, there are no injuries from today's game. Is that a positive? I hope so. I hope so. Eh. All right. Dave says we must stop not getting more aggressive on defense before the trade deadline. Yeah. Like you can't no one can argue with that right now after that performance. You could have argued about that earlier in the week, but today, at least for today, you'd be wrong to argue against it cuz yeah, the defense looked awful. It looked awful. Yeah, Robert Saleh, amazing defensive coordinator, but he needed help bad. I agree. He can only do so much to, you're not going to put, what's that saying? You're not going to put lipstick on a pig. You can't polish a turd. That's basically what Robert Saleh has been doing much of this season. And, well, it's just, there's just too many injuries to try to overcome at this point. If you're playing this Rams offense, it's going to look ugly. So expect that there will be other ugly performances like this in the future. Maybe week 16 against the Colts, probably. Maybe even week 17 against the Bears, although the Bears offense, it'd be hit or miss. Week 18 against the Seahawks. Like those last 3 games, I'm looking at this defense and I'm like, okay. Yeah, we'll see what happens in those, but it's hard to expect that it could get better, right? Like, can't get much better. Yeah. At this point, wait till Purdy's 100%. Juno says, having a horrible draft for the past 4 years, it's finally showing. I don't think the 49ers had a bad draft in 2025. I also think there were some, good players from the 24 draft as well. They've been better at drafting since Adam Peters left. I'll just say that. Yeah. Well, I hate talking about losses because, like, it just feels like there's not much to analyze. Like it, especially a defensive performance like this. Like, just nothing went right on the defensive side of the ball. By the way, like, I feel like there were opportunities for the 49ers. I want to say there were like 2 in this game for the 49ers to get an interception. And like, imagine playing a don't get an interception challenge, but your opponent is the 49ers. You're losing that because the 49ers can't get an interception, if their life depended on it. I know Lenore had one earlier this season, but my goodness, like, imagine how much better things would be if they could just create turnovers. The best person they had to create turnovers was Fred Warner, and you don't have that anymore. But man, I mean, the one that Renardo Green, I felt like the Renardo Green one should have been a pick. How do you not get that, man? Hit the jugs. Guess that's why he's a DB. But anyway. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for me. I mean, you guys know how I feel in summary. I feel like the defense was awful, but I expected the offense to be able to score points in this game. And they did. It was just way too late. Their backs were against the wall and just couldn't get it together early enough for it to really matter. I think if it was a shootout situation the entire game and the 49ers scored as many times as they had the opportunity to, then, we're probably looking at a much closer game. We're probably looking at whoever has the ball last, wins this game. But that wasn't the case, and it was just too much for the offense to overcome because they woke up too late. So I expect more games like this for the defense, but also this is a really good Rams offense. So, yeah. Can't win them all. All right, tomorrow going to be live with Weston. We will try to find some silver linings then too. We will try to crown a player of the week. I already have some ideas for player of the week, which is usually hard to do for losses, but I feel like there were some good performances on the offensive side of the ball that I would like to highlight. So we'll talk about those in tomorrow's show. But for now, folks, try to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let's put this one behind us. Peace.